Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into another deep dive. Today we're tackling something that probably makes everyone a little nervous. I know it does for me, public speaking.
Yeah, it's definitely up there on the list of things people get nervous about. But you know what? It doesn't have to be that way. That's what's so interesting about the stuff we looked at. It really shows you how to not just survive public speaking, but how to totally own it.
I love that. Own it. Okay, so where do we even begin? There's so much information out there. It can be overwhelming to know where to start.
You're right, there is. Well, one of the things that really stood out to me was this idea of a confidence loop. It basically boils down to this. The more you practice, the more confident you become, and the better your delivery. And that, in turn, leads to a more engaged audience. It's this awesome cycle.
The confidence loop, I like it. So it's all about building that confidence. Makes sense, but how do we actually do that? I mean, beyond just practicing, which, let's be honest, not everyone loves to do.
Right. Practice is key. But there are other things that can make a huge difference. Like, did you know that even what you wear can impact how confident you feel and how you're perceived by the audience?
Really? I mean, I know they say to dress for success, but I always thought that was more about feeling good about yourself.
It is, but it's also about how you present yourself to the world. Think about it. When you see a speaker who's dressed sharply, looking put together, it just subconsciously signals credibility, right? Even before they've said a word.
I guess you're right. It's like saying, I respect this occasion, I respect myself, so listen up.
Exactly. It's like setting the stage for your expertise. But it's not just about the clothes, of course. Your body language plays a huge role too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, don't cross your arms, make eye contact, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Things like maintaining good posture, using open hand gestures, all those subtle cues can make you appear more confident and approachable. And you know what else can really help? The way you use your words.
What do you mean?
Well, even simple things like using we instead of I can make a big difference. Inclusive language like that instantly creates a sense of camaraderie with the audience, like you're all in this together.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's like you're building a connection with them instead of talking at them.
Exactly. You want it to feel like a shared experience, not a lecture, which, speaking of, can be a challenge, especially during longer presentations, right?
Oh, tell me about it. I've definitely been in those presentations where you can just feel people's attention starting to drift, no matter how interesting the topic might be. It's like everyone hit that afternoon slump at the same time.
It happens. But there are actually a few things you can do to combat that. It all starts with a little empathy, really.
Empathy. For the audience who's slowly falling asleep, I'm intrigued.
Well, think about it. If you were in their shoes, sitting in a potentially stuffy room, maybe feeling a little overloaded with information, wouldn't a short break be welcome?
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Sometimes you just need a minute to reset.
Right. Even just a quick stretch or a chance to grab a drink can make a world of difference.
So don't be afraid to give people a moment to breathe. I like that.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that they're human, not just information absorbing machines. And you know what else can really re-energize a room? A well-timed joke or a quick funny story.
A little humor never hurt anyone, right? Except maybe if it falls flat.
True, true. But even then, it shows that you're trying to connect with the audience on a human level. But you know, sometimes even with our best efforts, those signs, the side conversations, the phones slowly creeping out of pockets, these start to pop up.
Yeah, that feeling of losing the room, it's almost like a speaker's worst nightmare, isn't it?
It can be disheartening, for sure, but it's not a lost cause. That's where bringing in some strategic variety can really help.
Variety. Like, what kind of variety are we talking about here?
Well, something as simple as shifting your tone of voice can make a big difference. Or pausing for emphasis after a key point. It's about shaking things up a little, keeping your audience on their toes.
Oh, I get it. So they don't get too comfortable.
Precisely. And you know what else is great for pulling people back in? A good story.
A story in the middle of a presentation.
Yeah. Stories have this natural way of drawing people in because they tap into our emotions, you know? They
Yeah.
make the information more relatable, more memorable. And if it works with your topic, why not add some dramatic flair, even some sound effects if you're feeling bold?
It's like you're turning the presentation into an experience, not just a boring old lecture.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Sometimes, even with our best efforts, we encounter those audiences that are just, well, a little unresponsive.
Oh, you mean like the ones who just sit there staring at you with blank expressions? Yeah, that's always fun.
It can be a bit unnerving, right?
Right.
But remember, an unresponsive audience isn't necessarily a bad audience. There could be a lot of reasons why they're quiet.
So before you start panicking and thinking you're the most boring speaker on the planet, What should you do?
Take a breath and try to understand where they might be coming from. Maybe the content is hitting a nerve, or maybe they're just feeling overwhelmed. That's where that empathy we talked about earlier comes in handy.
So acknowledge where they're at, even if it's not where you want them to be.
Exactly. You might even say something like, I know this is a lot to process, or I get the sense that there might be some different opinions in the room,
Oh.
and then use that as a starting point for a discussion.
It's about having a conversation, not just a monologue. I like it.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And sometimes those conversations can get a little, shall we say, livelier than we might expect.
Oh, you mean when you've got a heckler in the audience? Talk about a presentation plot twist. That's got to be a tough one to handle gracefully.
It can be, but luckily there are some strategies that can help you deal with those situations with, dare I say, a bit of flair.
Okay, I am all ears. So let's say you're mid-presentation, the spotlight's on you, and suddenly, bam, someone from the back yells out something totally off topic. What's your move?
Well, first things first, don't panic. I know it's easier said than done when you've got adrenaline pumping and all eyes on you.
Oh, absolutely. You're up there trying to stay composed and bam, someone throws you a curveball.
Exactly. But that's exactly why staying calm is so crucial. Most of the time, a heckler, they're trying to get a rise out of you, trying to throw you off your game.
So don't let them see you sweat, right? But what's the best way to handle it? Should you engage directly or just ignore it?
It really depends on the situation. You have to kind of read the room. Is it just one person, or is there a whole chorus of dissent brewing? Sometimes, honestly, the best approach is to just, acknowledge it briefly and move on.
Like a we hear you, but we're moving on kind of thing.
Exactly. But if the heckling is persistent, or if it's truly disruptive, then you might have to address it a bit more directly.
Okay, so how do you do that without completely derailing your whole presentation?
One tactic that can be really effective is to politely acknowledge their comment, but without getting bogged down in the specifics. You could say something like, thanks for your perspective. I understand this might be a point of discussion, and, maybe we can circle back during the Q&A.
So you're acknowledging them without letting them hijack the entire conversation. Smart.
Right. And here's another little trick. Use the audience to your advantage.
What do you mean? How do you do that?
Sometimes just making eye contact with someone who's clearly engaged, nodding along, that can actually help diffuse the situation.
It's like silently enlisting their support, right? Reminding everyone that you're all there for the same reason.
Exactly. Now, let's switch gears a bit and talk about another curveball that can really throw speakers off. That moment when you get hit with a question that you don't know the answer to.
Oh man, talk about a fear that every speaker has, right? It's like that feeling of your mind going completely blank.
It can definitely be nerve-wracking, but it doesn't have to spell disaster. The most important thing is honesty.
So what, you just admit you don't know the answer?
Exactly. It's way better than trying to make something up on the spot, which, let's be honest, almost always backfires.
Okay, that makes sense. So instead of panicking, what do you say?
You could say something like, that's a great question. And I'll be honest, I don't have that specific information at my fingertips right now, but I would be happy to look into it and get back to you.
So you're basically turning it into an opportunity to follow up.
Exactly. And honestly, admitting that you don't have all the answers can actually build trust with your audience.
It shows that you're human.
Exactly. You're a real person, not just a robot up there spouting off facts. Now, of course, there are those questions that aren't really about seeking information,
You mean like the gotcha questions, the ones meant to put you on the spot.
Exactly. And when you get one of those, the key is to stay calm and don't be afraid to reframe the question. Ask for clarification if you need to.
So you're making sure you're both on the same page before diving into a response.
Exactly. And honestly, all of these techniques, from handling hecklers to navigating those tough questions, they all tie back to that confidence loop we talked about earlier. The more you practice, the more prepared you feel, and the easier it becomes to handle anything that comes your way.
It's about turning those potential disaster moments into opportunities to really connect with your audience.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Speaking of connection, did you notice how much emphasis was placed on the power of visualization in what we looked at?
Yeah, I did. It really stood out to me. It's like mentally rehearsing for the big event, right?
Exactly. And it's a surprisingly powerful tool, especially when it comes to combating those pre-presentation jitters.
Okay, I'm sold. Tell me everything. So I'm picturing myself about to walk on stage, and I can already feel the butterflies starting to flutter. What do I do? How does visualization actually work?
Okay, so close your eyes and imagine yourself walking onto the stage, You're feeling calm, confident, ready to share your message.
Oh, I'm feeling it already.
And you can sense the audience, their energy, their anticipation. They're ready to hear what you have to say.
That's a good feeling.
You're not just reciting words. You're connecting with them on a deeper level. You're making eye contact. Using those natural gestures we talked about, you're speaking with passion and enthusiasm.
Yeah, I can see it.
And you're visualizing yourself engaging with the audience,
Mm.
responding to questions with clarity and confidence. And you're leaving them feeling inspired, informed, and maybe even a little entertained.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this works. It's like a mental rehearsal, but more powerful.
Exactly. The more vividly you can picture it, the more likely you are to actually experience it.
So it's not just about seeing yourself succeed, but feeling it too. The confidence, the energy, the engagement.
You got it. And don't underestimate the power of some good old-fashioned physical preparation. Arriving early to get familiar with the presentation space, running through your material with the equipment, maybe even doing a quick practice run of your speech. Those things really help you feel more in control, less anxious about those last-minute surprises.
Makes sense. It's like taking charge of the environment, getting rid of some of the unknowns.
Exactly. And if you're feeling really nervous, try a quick breathing exercise. A few deep breaths can really help calm your nerves and center your focus.
Okay, so when the panic starts to set in, stop, breathe, and then visualize myself crushing it.
You've got it. And don't forget about the power of genuine enthusiasm. When you're truly passionate about your topic, it shows. Let that passion shine through and your audience will be captivated.
It's about sharing something you care about, not just delivering a robot-like presentation.
Exactly. It's about connecting with people, making them feel like they're part of something bigger, something meaningful. And remember, even the most experienced speakers have moments of self-doubt. Everyone experiences nervousness. It's actually normal.
That's a good reminder.
What sets those confident speakers apart is their ability to embrace those feelings, to use them as motivation to prepare, to practice, and to deliver their best work.
It's about embracing the journey, not just the destination. Okay, that's some great food for thought as you prepare for your next presentation. But before we wrap up, we want to leave you with one final question.
Oh yeah, what is it?
Our deep dive has focused heavily on how to be an amazing speaker. But what about the art of listening? How can we, as audience members, become more active listeners, contributing to a more engaging and rewarding experience for everyone involved? It's a great question to consider as you move forward and continue your public speaking journey.